Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Can I just ask you to mute yourself, please?
If you could all just mute your mics when you come in, that'd be great.
How do I do that, Auntie?
I'll do it, don't worry.
Oh, he's going to do it. Okay. Okay.
Can you see me, Camilla and James? Am I on your screen?
Yeah, I could just see you then, Alex. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So if everyone could turn their cameras off, that would be really great, really helpful. So I'm so sorry you're so late coming in. We had some, this is the beauty. It's like almost like, I feel like one of those TV presenters going, this is live TV and this is what happens. So we just had a bit of technical issues and Alex unfortunately couldn't get his camera working on his laptop. So we've, he's now here on his phone, but we've done some hocus pocus and hopefully we can now present the slides still and still see Alex. So if the rest of you could turn your cameras off. If you don't know how to use Teams, there should be a little camera icon depending on whether you're using it through the app or if you're on your Chrome or on your browser, you should see a little camera icon. And if you click on the downward button there, you should be able to click on that and turn your cameras off. That would be really helpful. We just, the reason being is because we have glitchy connection when everyone has their cameras on, but it's also so that we can see Alex's finger mainly.
I don't know. I've got my phone landscape leaning against my laptop, which is just typical, isn't it? I've got my laptop right in front of me. So sorry, I don't know what happened there with Teams. But am I coming across okay there? I've got my phone down landscape, or do you think I should turn it?
We can see you. If I'm just wondering if we stop sharing the screen for a second, James. I know you're doing everything else.
Don't
then
worry,
we can
I've
see.
spotlighted Alex there.
Ah, brilliant. That's perfect.
Is it okay?
And then we can see Alex a bit more.
Yeah, that's good, Alex.
Okay, because the phone's just leaning against the laptop, so hopefully it's high enough. I don't know if it's just peering down upon everyone. But I haven't got the time to just kind of like fix that up. But you just let me know when we're ready to start and I'll go ahead.
Okay, well, everybody's on now. So we have officially started. So I'm sorry about the sort of chaotic beginning, everyone. Welcome to the first live event of the festival, which is Alex Wharton. And he's going to tell us lots about poetry and using poetry in our craft. Now, we had Joe last year and it was very successful. So we were really thrilled when Alex said that he could definitely do this event. But we booked you ages ago, didn't we, Alex? We're like, get Alex in. So we booked him ages ago. But I'm just going to read his bio here. I'm sure you've all seen it on the website. But Alex Wharton, for those of you that don't know, is an award-winning writer and performer of poetry for adults and children. His first book of poetry for children, Daydreams and Jelly Beans, was shortlisted for the Wales Book of the Year Award in 2022, the North Somerset Teachers Book Award, the Laugh Out Loud Book Awards, and was named as National Poetry Day Recommended Read. Alex won the inaugural Rising Stars Wales Award in 2020 and is the Children's Laureate in Wales for up until 2025, which was amazing to hear that news. Alex's second and third collections of poetry, Donuts, Thieves and Chimpanzees and Red Sky at Night, A Poet's Delight, will be published with Firefly Press, which we all love Firefly, in 2023 and 2024. So amazing, what a bio. It's incredible to have you here, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be reserving some time at the end of the session for Q&A. So do put your questions in the chat box. If you can preempt them with question before you type them in, that's really helpful so that I can, when I go through the box, I can sort of pull them out from general chat. But if you want to write any comments, whatever, that's great. You know, interact on the chat box. It's always good to do so. But if you keep your cameras and your mics off through the session, that'd be really good. So James is going to go through the slides and hopefully I can hand over to you now, Alex.
Yes, okay, happy days, lovely stuff. So yeah, lovely to see you all. So of course, as Camilla said, I'm a writer, poet, author, singer-songwriter, lots of lovely things, but I suppose it all comes from the same place. It comes from that sense of creative expression, artistic creative expression. I mean, I started writing poetry really for like adults, for an older audience, but it moved into writing for younger people, or what I would say is writing for the curious nature in everybody. That's what I found, really. I don't, even though they market these books at 7 to 11 or whatever they like to do, I feel like when I'm writing for the curious nature and the playful nature in all of us. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that as I kind of go through this session. What we're going to do, I'm going to read some poems from a selection of my books, just to introduce you to some of the diversity of the poetry that I like to write and what I feel works well, especially if you're somebody visiting schools or would like to visit schools, or you would just like to publish work, in that sense. But as I said, really, it does all come from the same place. It comes from a sense of joy, of magic, of wonder, and it's all about bringing us together, but also at the same time transporting us into all these lovely places where authors invite us to go. So, and that's what we're doing, really. We're getting closer to that every time. We're getting closer to the truth of things, and just, reflecting our lives. That's how I feel when I'm writing poetry. Poetry is a reflection of the human condition. So every time we tickle our way into it, really, we're just sharing slivers of who we are, kind of, the person we've been, the person we are now, and the person, our dreams, our dreams and our imagination. So it's just a combination of everything. And I think that the more you get to know yourself, the better you get at expressing yourself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read. Am I still okay there? My screen just seemed to turn upside down. So I'm going to read a couple of poems from the book. I'm going to start with a poem called Jelly Bean. Can I just get a little thumbs up just to make sure somebody that is all okay? Is it okay, James? Happy days, lovely. So I'm going to read a poem called Jelly Bean. This is from my first collection of poetry, Daydreams and Jelly Beans, and it goes like this. There's a jelly bean stranded at the top of the stairs, and its blue beanie body is covered in haze, and it's been there for days just gathering dust, and people walk by with a look of disgust. So I pick the bean up and I walk to the bin, but I change my mind before I throw it in. You see, the bin was full, and I do hate to waste, so I chewed the bean up. Oh, what a wonderful taste. So I tend to do this poem, especially in assemblies and things, and I would usually do like a call and response. And, children love that. It just gets everybody warmed up. And it's just a fun poem to get started, really. The next poem we're going to read is called Donuts, Thieves and Chimpanzees. And like I said at the start, really, this is just about showcasing a little bit of my work. And I hope that as we go on, because we're going to be writing some poems, I hope that this inspires you in some sense, just filling you with words and the joy and the musicality of language, really. So this one is from my collection. Actually, I should have showed you that in case you don't know about it. This is Donuts, Thieves. Sorry, this is Daydreams and Jelly Beans. Where should I be looking at this? This is, I'm turned around. I should probably try and, I think that's come off okay. And I'm going to read a poem from Donuts, Thieves and Chimpanzees, whatever this is. Okay, here we go. It's called The Dragon in Question. So it's about a dragon that is characteristically more like a mouse. Have a look here. The dragon in question is more like a mouse. He isn't a mouse, but he lives in a house. Not in the house, but under the house. The dragon that's more like a mouse. And he's tiny, you see, not as small as a flea, but smaller than what you'd imagine he'd be. He's more like a mouse living under the house. He burps tiny flames from his miniature mouth. And would you believe he loves cheddar cheese? It's yummy, he says, very yummy. Before scurrying away in a mouse-like way with plenty of cheese in his tummy. And I'll never know why he never does fly. But I promise you this, I tell you no lie, the dragon in question is more like a mouse living under the house. Thank you very much. Horse on the loo. I can't believe my eyes. I don't know what to do. There's a horse in my bathroom and he's using the loo. He said to give him space. It'll all be over soon. But he's been in there for hours, the entire afternoon. And now I hear him singing and tip-tapping his hooves. Then suddenly a crash and my ceiling crumbles through. Now the horse is in my kitchen and he's still sat on the loo. He looks at me and says, it'll all be over soon. Are there really monsters that eat children for lunch? I don't want to be a snack. I am not a monster's munch. I've heard terrible things of what happened to Tim. They say that a monster devoured him. And what about Jay? It was awful, they said. A monster put J between buttered bread. But don't forget this, on a cold winter's night, a monster ate James with Turkish delight. Nobody is safe. That's what I hear. They swished Camilla down with a pint of beer. Are they really monsters that eat children for lunch? Because I don't want to be a snack. I am not a monster's munch. Okay, and I travel around a lot on the trains. So I tend to write, as I said, this is just a reflection of the things that we do, the things that we think, and ideas and narratives that we pick up along the way. Poetry is such a lovely, joyous kind of form of language, and I just love the musicality of it. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we start writing our own poems. And the rhythm and the cadence and the intonation. I think that it just comes across so well if you really live it, and if you embody the emotion that you're expressing in the language itself. And I think that's what it's all about, especially people who think, I can't perform, or I don't really know about that. It's really just a poem's a living thing anyway. So it's just living it. It's just communicating it in a living, lively way to your audience. And that's what it's about for me. So this one is called Train. Trembling down the steel track, slicing through the tunnels black, a bit of this, a bit of that, clickety, clickety, clackety, clack, rickety, rickety, flickety, flick, the lights are flashing, quickety, quick, the bouncing made a baby sick, lumpety, lumpety, thickety, thick, my tickety ticket says one way only, the smell of puke is macaroni, and rivety, robbety, ravioli, the baby's favorite, the parents told me, I'm getting off next time it stops, hibbity, hibbity, hoppity, hop, don't know where and don't know what, goodbye, ciao now, adios. They make me chuckle myself, because I feel happy when I read the poems, and and like I said, it is about joy and it's about playfulness. Let's have a little look at some other types of poems that we might kind of extend to a younger audience, or the playful nature in people. I spend a lot of time in nature, and I've kept horses and things for years, and I love to just explore the natural world. And I like to write about it. Sometimes I'll pick a hedgehog, and I got Hector the Horrible Hedgehog in some of my books, but I'm still writing about the natural world, and I'll ask the children, I'll ask people, have you ever seen a hedgehog? And they say no or yes, and then we can get talking about it. And I believe that the more we know or learn about the natural world, the more likely we are to protect it. So there's a story everywhere. This one is called Waterfall, and it goes like this. You are all water, and all water is you, but this time you search for a pool to fall into. A journey into water is a journey home, wandering, folding, bursting and stretching like wet flames. Turn inside and over, roll into new water, and gather every sound, carry them off the edge of ground. Every stone smoothed and riverbed tickled, each dip and twist of bird and fish, you fall again, together again. Whisper, burble, thunder, hiss. When I was younger, I used to think a lot about the people that I would see on the streets, and homeless people, and it used to really play on my mind, and it still does now. You see it, and we know that it's awful. And this poem is a poem that lends itself to just encouraging a good sense of empathy, and for people not to have preconceived opinions of those that we see around us. So this poem is called Man in Town. Who is that lonely man in town, curled up on the concrete ground? I see his breath on winter's air, but people pass without a care. His eyes are tired, hands are worn, clothes still damp from the night before, and I wonder if dreams find him too. Underneath his streetlight roof, a dream to travel from city streets, out of sight to a safer sleep. Who is that lonely man in town, curled up on the concrete ground? I'm going to go back to Red Sky at Night, A Poet's Delight, which is my most recent book. This was published about 4 weeks ago, actually. And again, there's a lot of kind of exploration of the natural world in this, but a bit of everything. And this one is called The Long Way Home. Some nights we drive the long way home. I don't know why, we just do. Perhaps it's the newly smoothed road, or maybe it's the music. Sometimes there is no music, but my brain is singing. And each new street light is a disco light, a pulse, a rhythm, a feeling. We never mention it. We just enjoy the ride, our cozy little car, all warm inside. And I'm going to introduce you to a really menacing character called Mr. Slime, who lives in my kitchen. You might feel the same as me. You might have a kitchen that maybe slugs take over at midnight. I hope you don't, but if you do, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This is called Mr. Slime. Maybe I'm going to read 2 more poems, and we're going to get into our first poetry prompt exercise, which is going to encourage us to just, maybe think about some of the things that we'd like to put across in poetry today. I don't think there's anything better, really, than today for me reading my poems, rambling on about the ways and whys that I kind of write poetry and how I go about it, and us writing poetry together ourselves as well. I feel like that works best. So this is called Mr. Slime, and it's a letter from a slug. At night, I'm the slimy king of the kitchen. You think you know it all. You know nothing. Don't come downstairs at midnight. If you value your life, stay well clear, out of sight. I'm unfriendly. Other slugs shake in their boots when they see me, so back off, pal. I'm a mischief, a real problem, a tough cookie. No nonsense. I eat salt for breakfast. Last night, I slept in the dog's bed. They can keep it. I'd rather sleep on glass. I'm moody. Spiders won't even look at me. I could never be squished. Don't even try. I'll stare you down with my slug eyes. I could never be poisoned. I'm toxic. And I lick the food from fallen spoons, then howl at the moon as all slugs do. So don't cross the line. From the cooker to the wall and the fridge to the door, it's all mine. Yours sluggishly, Mr. Slime. So I hope you don't come across a slug like this. And then there's another poem, and like a little playful poem. It's called Ant. And this is because it was in my garden in the summertime. This was about 2 years ago, and I could hear something, just a little strange sound like this. I thought, hang on, what's that? So I started following this around my garden. And when I got there, it turned out it was an ant performing a poem from a little ant colony. So I thought, hang on, listen to it. And the ant said, look, Alex, I know you're a poet and a performer. You travel all around the country, speaking to tens of thousands of children and whoever. Can you just tell them my story? Tell it just like me. It's important that people know what it's like to be an ant. So I said, look, that's not a problem. I can do that. So I memorized it. And then this is the poem. Okay, it's 10 seconds long. It's just a one breath poem. I'm going to say it to you right now. You're probably not going to understand a word I say. I'm happy to read it twice. Here we go. It goes like this. It's called Ant. I'm busy all the time, carrying things 10 times my size. I leave a piece of molded bread and injured down with a broken leg. Sometimes I don't know where I'm going. Busy is all I'm knowing. Up, down, left, right, zigzag, there's always something else to do. There we go. Probably didn't understand a word I say. At this point, I would do a bit of audience collaboration. It was tricky to do this online. I'm going to read it one more time very fast. And then actually, I'm going to try it. Who knows? I think that maybe at home, you are doing this, and I'm going to hope you are. First of all, I'll read it one more time just to see if you understand what's going on. Here we go. I'm busy all the time, carrying things 10 times my size. I leave a piece of molded bread and injured down with a broken leg. Sometimes I don't know where I'm going. Busy is all I'm knowing. Up, down, left, right, zigzag, there's always something else to do. There we go. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hope that this works, okay? So it's going to seem a little bit strange from my side of things, but I'm just going to hope that you're going to repeat after me, okay? So if I say ant, I'm going to point to you and you're going to say ant, but you're going to say it very fast, okay? So this is just me hoping that you're doing this at home, just for a bit of fun, just to warm yourselves up a little bit before we start writing. Okay, so ant. All I can do is point to you, and I just hope that you're not embarrassed to kind of read this poem out in your living room or wherever you are. So it goes like this. I'm busy all the time, carrying things 10 times my size. A lethal piece of moldy bread. An injured arm and a broken leg. Sometimes I don't know where I'm going. Busy is all I'm knowing. Up, down, left, right, zigzag, zoo. There's always something else to do. So I don't know if you was actually copying all the words after me or you were saying ant. I'm not sure what was going on. You could have copied every word. I don't know. But it's a little bit of fun. And yes, I hope that you've enjoyed it. Let me just check. I think I'm quite happy with a bit of some of the diversity that I've read here today, because it's just a little bit touch and base. I mean, I sing songs as well. I've got rap songs and all these other things. But again, I would usually get the audience to collaborate, so I'm not sure how well it would come across here this morning, but you can see a lot of my work online and on YouTube and all those other lovely things. So what I'm going to do now, I think that we should move on, and I'm going to move on to the slide. this is an exercise. This is tricky for me to know. I can't see it. I'll just have to, Camilla, if you can just tell me if the slide's up, or are you going to pop it up now?
So James is just sharing the screen now.
Okay, correct. I wonder if
so,
sorry to do this, but I wonder if I turn myself around like that it's okay still.
Yeah, we just see your head, but that's cool. They were so great, Alex. They were so funny. I love the one you can say it really, really fast, like a tongue twister. That's so
yes.
I love that.
Yeah, and like I say, hopefully it's just come across. I could go on reading poems all day, but the main thing is I want everybody, I want the audience to, I want everybody here to get a chance to write, and then we can talk about really, you know, why we kind of why we create certain poems and how they come across to our audience. So yeah, just threw a few poems out there this morning. Just I hope that inspires everybody to start.
They're lovely. They were really, really lovely, really fun. We got nice, lovely reaction in the chat box, and people saying that you're obviously a songwriter, which obviously you are.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Can everyone see those slides, Camilla?
Yes, I can see them. So we're
great.
on your first slide, and would you like us to go straight to the next one, Alex?
Oh yes, please. Yes. We're going to go straight to the next. So basically, yeah, we're going to write. We're going to write. I think we're going to do 2 poems. I think we'll have time. Maybe we'll just break out for like 5 to 7 minutes, and write. I'll just pitch in every now and again because I'm here. But yes, we're going to write a poem about peace. So maybe if you've got pen and paper there, you could just write 1 or 2 things that you think about when you think about peace. Obviously, peace there being defined as a freedom from anxiety, disturbance, emotional, mental, spiritual, or inner conflict, a sense of calm and tranquility. So anything you think about when you think about peace. Peace is different to all of us, of course. So maybe just this is just nice, really, to have a little think about that in your own life. You know, for me, walking my dogs, listening to the music that I like. Yeah, I mean, exercising, depending on what it is, sometimes it gets lively, but it depends what you're doing, whether you consider it would be peaceful, whether you consider it would be a freedom from anxiety, a freedom from any kind of disturbance, a sense of calm and tranquility. So you can just write 1 or 2 of those things down, and then we're going to move on to the next slide. There's a few of these slides that we will not need, so let me just see how you get on. Let's go to we're going to go to slide number 7, if we could, please, James. Camilla, you've got to mention Anne James in the Monsters poem. I don't know if you noticed that, but
oh yeah, I heard that. I'm not sure how I feel about being swallowed up.
They swished Camilla down with a pint of beer. And again, that's something that is nice in a collaborative way, because if I'm in an assembly or something like this, I'll usually ask, is anybody afraid of monsters? Is it okay if I read this poem? And they say, yeah, it's fine. And I'll ask someone on the front row, what about you? What's your name? Are you afraid of monsters? My name's Ryan. Okay, are you afraid? No. And then you'll say, oh, what's your name? Jess, Jessica, whoever. And I just bring it in then. And I think the class, they love that. They love it when you just bring in 2 names out of the class. They just love it. It's about playfulness, isn't it? So, okay, so we're on this next slide. So here we go. This is just a prompt-led poem. I hope you all don't mind really just writing a poem today. You know, there's no pressure to share it. I'm happy maybe for 1 or 2 people to share what they've written if they like. But it's just a quick exercise. Don't you think too hard about this. We've got questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. The answers that we get from the questions are going to build our poem, okay? So what is peace to me? You can choose something from your list that you just wrote, add some description too, okay? This is just a nice flow-in poetry exercise to get the words weaving. And I do think that by the time you've done this one and then a humorous poetry exercise, the combination of the 2 will make you think a bit more, I hope, confidently about putting pen to paper when it comes to writing poetry for the curious natured souls out there, whether they are children or adults or whomever. So what is peace to me? I wrote, peace is walking in the woods, sunlight on the leaves, birdsong pecking at the silence. Who else is with me? Is there anything else going on? So I'm going to say the dogs dart off. They lose themselves in the leaves, but they never go too far. And what are you thinking? Like, this could be anything, a memory, a thought about the future. Maybe it's just the present. So I'm thinking this as I'm walking with my dogs. I played here as a boy. We ran and slid like soldiers, hiding, spying, quiet as a mouse, and then we pounce. And how does it all feel? Don't forget to be imaginative. Use figurative language to make the words and the writing more colourful and bright. It feels good to be here, to stretch the mind out wide, to glide and dream, to travel back in time. And can you find this slice of peace again, this moment of peace? So I'm going to say this. I'll come again, glide some more, deeper into the woods. I'll whistle back to the birds and watch as the sun gives way to the moon. So my poem reads like this. Peace is walking in the woods, sunlight on the leaves, birdsong pecking at the silence. The dogs dart off. They lose themselves in the leaves, but they never go too far. I played here as a boy. We ran and slid like soldiers, hiding, spying, quiet as a mouse, and then we'd pounce. And it feels good to be here, to stretch the mind out wide, to glide and dream, to travel back in time. I'll come again, glide some more, deeper into the woods. I'll whistle back to the birds and watch as the sun gives way to the moon. Okay, so I'm going to give you like maybe just a few minutes, 5 minutes, should just answer these questions. Nothing, just answer it in sentences, but maybe throw a little sprinkle of something on there. Like I said, add a bit of description. And you know, this could be lying on your bed, in your garden. What is peace to me? Peace is sitting in my garden. I can hear the birds. I'm drinking a cup of tea. Who else is with me? I'm by myself, just how I like it on a Sunday morning. And what are you thinking? So just a quick bit of expression here. Maybe we'll just have a few minutes. I'll try and keep my eye on the time. What is the time here? Yes, okay. We started a little bit later as well, didn't we? So that's fine. Okay. Yeah, this we'll just have 5 minutes here. And I'll write something fresh as well, just using the questions. Thank you for all the kind messages. I just had a quick squint through them because I'm using my phone, so I couldn't see them coming up on the side or anything. So yeah, really lovely. Thank you. And I can see some people adding some of their poems into the chats as well, which is really lovely. And I mean, that's what this is about. It's a quick exercise. It's something we don't have to work too long on. And I've just written a poem, another poem here now, but yeah, I hope it inspires you in some way to get right. And that's the main thing, sometimes it's where to start. But when you realize that anywhere and everywhere, then that's you're on your way then. I walk out now, I could go for a walk with my dogs or go and see the horses, and there'll be poems all around. There are poems around every corner. That's what I believe. It's just how it takes to look at the world, isn't it? Like the world's like a bit of a story, your story. And I like that. So how are you all getting on with this? Maybe just like I'm going to give it 1 more minute, and then I think we could move on really. So but if you've written the questions down and you're happy writing that poem, then obviously this is something you can go back to. The drafts, it's never really done. It takes a while for a poem to be finished, and I think that it's just, if you haven't got any experience writing poems or writing songs, the way I feel is that obviously the work comes in the draft. So in the second draft, the third draft, the fourth draft, however many, it's kind of like how long's a piece of string. There's no answer to how long a poem will take, but it's about knowing the energy of the poem and reading the poem aloud to get a feel for its rhythm, its cadence, its sense of musicality. And you don't have to rhyme. Poetry doesn't always have to rhyme, and I'm sure you know that. It doesn't have to rhyme when you're writing for children either, or a younger audience. But just kind of the poem will tell you what it wants anyway. That's what I would say about that. So either way, you can still create a good sense of rhythm and musicality in non-rhyming poetry. But the editing stage is really important, and that's the most therapeutic stage for me. I think that I got into writing poetry as a therapy. I was just writing, this was I don't know, like 9 years ago. I didn't really write so much as a child, but I was involved in a bit of a rap group. So I was always very critical about lyrics, and I'd read all the lyrics in the backs of my CDs, but I wasn't writing a lot then. Then I started writing short stories and things in my early 20s. But when poetry came along, it just came out of a journal, and I was just expressing myself and my life. And then it led on to poems. And first of all, it's less to write. So I thought that was it was interesting, but it's less to write, but obviously it takes so much more. So it's really understanding the energy that every word has combined. But yes, the editing poetry, I say it's like a puzzle. If that helps, that might help you, the idea of a poetry puzzle, crossing out, the bringing in and the rearranging and all of that lovely stuff. For me, that is the therapeutic aspect of poetry. But I think that when you improve the language, I do think that you improve yourself a little bit too, because you're basically saying that you're not satisfied with how this poem is going to communicate with the audience or yourself. So every time you delve back into the poetry puzzle and cross out this and cross out that and bring this in and read it out loud and think about the soundscape, you're just improving the writing, but you're improving yourself a little bit too along the way. So let me see where we are. I'm going to move this because I need to have a look what's going on my laptop. The one with a redundant camera. Okay, we're going to move on to what we're going to do, James. If you're happy, if everybody's happy, we're going to move on to slide number 10. And this is just, it's still about peace, really, but it's about someone or something, anything really, disturbing your sense of peace. This poem comes from my first book, Daydreams and Jelly Beans. And I can do these exercises with children, with everybody, because again, this is all about the joy of language and the way that we connect with each other. We've all got a little story like this. So this is a poem that I wrote to my brother. I've got 6 brothers, and I wrote this poem. This is a letter to my brother. And we're going to do something similar to somebody, or it could be an inanimate object, whatever it is. I'm going to read this poem first of all, and then go from there, okay? Dear brother, when you sleep, did you know that your mouth unlocks itself and hangs wide open like the entrance of a lonely cave? It swallows the entire bedroom only to throw it back out again on the next breath. It's a space-like black hole with waterfalls of dribble that slide down your cheeks and form warm dribbly pools on your pillow. And there's usually some snot too, slowly lodging and clogging up the background mechanics of your nostrils. And when you breathe in, it sounds like a crisp packet jammed in the nozzle of a Hoover. Anyway, It's the kind of sound that clings to every particle of air, and there is no escaping it, which is why your new bedroom is in the shed at the very bottom of the garden. Not our garden either. Good night, bro. So the whole idea of this is describing a scenario. So we're still on peace. We wrote a kind of peaceful poem, something that felt peaceful to us in the first session. So this is still about peace, but it's about something disturbing your peace. And we can take a more humorous spin on this and have a bit of fun, get a bit wacky with the language, the similes, just say things that you feel like you've never heard before. And I think that's what really helps when writing a real a bit of an energetic and descriptive poem like this. Just as an example, on the other side, this is not in any of my books. I did this just when I was kind of testing out this as a workshop myself. So, dear dog, for example, you have a great bark, it's true, but 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning is not the time, buddy. Your grizzly bear growls are frightening all the neighbors, including me. And when you start, you get all the others going. Hundreds of hairy-bodied, frothy-mouthed, yappy-snappy canines, and it's driving me up the wall. So it's just a bit of a start to another poem. So basically what I would like here is just that you think of this, you write a letter to something, to anybody. All you need to think really of this poem. I haven't got questions like the last ones, like a proper poetry-led one, but just some questions for you to think about. Who am I writing about? That's going to be your title, okay? Dear brother, dear sister, dear nan, dear dog. What annoys me about them or it? And how could I make things better? Like obviously me putting my brother in the shed, not even my own shed. So this could be an inanimate object. You could write a letter to a car alarm or a motorbike that zooms up and down the street at midnight. Anything you can think of that disrupts your peace. You know what I'm saying? A washing machine. I mean, the list just goes on, doesn't it? So have a little think of something like that. Get a bit playful with this one. Again, we'll just take like 5 minutes really. But I think in this, I mean, questions. I think I start with a question straight away. Dear brother, when you sleep, did you know that your mouth unlocks itself? And I think that questions always go down well in a poem because did you know? And I think the audience and the reader, they like that because they're asking themselves the question at the same time. So, and yet this poem really, as you look down it, is just filled with description. There is no strict or hard and fast rule or structure in this poem. A lot of the time, I've realized this, that I write the poems. What I'm thinking about mostly in the poem is its energy. And I'm not too bothered. If you look through all my books, of course, there are poems in stanzas and there's poems with certain kind of, what am I thinking the words, like iambic pentameter, whatever kind of rhythmic structure that works for the idea, because it's not I don't think it's to constrain yourself to those structures. I think it's just to let the poem loose. And then, like I said earlier, you'll soon see what the poem wants to do. So of course, those tips and tricks, those ideas are great. Writing with a certain sense of structure can help depending on what kind of point you're trying to get across. But I often just look at the shape of the poem and think, well, what is the mood of the poem? So allow that to drive the poem sometimes, I would say. When I'm writing like a poem and it's gentle, like Waterfall, I think that I just made it slim, and I wanted it to feel like it was kind of running down the page. There is no other structure to this poem other than the way that I feel it looks on the page. And really the words just fall off of each line, like in, using kind of enjambment. The words just fall off of each line, giving that sense when you read it, that sense of trickling down. So again, it is really about the energy of the poem. So if you can just maybe, I guess you've probably already started writing these poems, and like I said, just have a bit of fun with it. They say that everything's been said before, and I often talk about this, but of course, perhaps that's true, but it hasn't been said by you or us, has it? So just sprinkling your work with your identity is the most important thing that you can do. There are no doors closed on you when it comes to you. It is just you. So you know yourself best, and things that make you smile or laugh or think, or the things that inspire you. Write for yourself first and foremost. And I think that that's the most helpful thing that you can do. So I'm going to be quiet for a couple of minutes, which is tough for me. I'm loving the poems coming into the chat. So maybe we'll just take another minute or so, maybe a minute and a half, and then I'm not, Camilla, do you think we could if they put their hands up, do you think you would be able to select maybe one or two people to read one of their poems, the first and second, if they like, or no?
Yeah, I think so. If people want to share and want to read out their poems, is there anything you've picked out, Alex, that you think people that you'd like people to read out, or just people want to put their hand up?
If people, I've got a very limited view here, gallery view. Like I'm just on speaker view, so when you speak, it shows you, and then it's mainly showing me on my phone. So, yeah, if you can see and you think that somebody would like, maybe, I mean, we got time for 2 or 3. They could read their both poems if they like, so we can have a bit of we can see that contrast or hear that contrast. But yeah, so maybe in a moment we can. Oh, my screen is just popped up and I can see more people.
Yeah, so James has just stopped sharing now, so that we should all be able to see one another. So if you guys, I'm loath to say turn all your cameras on, but if anybody is particularly would like to read their poem, if you could just raise your hand, which is just clicking on the little it's like a little icon at the top like that. If you click on that, and then we can turn your camera on. So we've got Fiona here wanting to come. So if you put your camera back on then, Fiona, and we can hear your poem, that'd be lovely. Hi, you need to unmute, or James, could you unmute Fiona?
Yeah, I've done it.
Oh, you've done it. Great.
I think I've done it. Hi, that was really wonderful. Thank you so much. Really, I enjoyed it enormously. So I didn't finish because I didn't have enough time, but the second poem, which was the funny one, is called Dear Spider.
Nice.
So, Dear Spider, did you know that when you spin your webby thread, it twines itself around the bed? It leads from lamp to wall to floor. I wish it would lead out the door. The problem is, where are you? Are you hiding in the loo or underneath the table? Wait, is that you on my plate? Oh no, it's just a bit of fluff that fell from my old jumper cuff.
Round of applause. I think that was fantastic. That was really great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's lovely to see like what can be achieved in such a small time. This is really what it's about. Just about putting pen to paper and just having fun as well. And the more poems you write and the more that you explore it, obviously, just the more it grows. And so that's lovely. Thanks for sharing that. That was excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. That was great.
That was your inspiration. Thank you.
Not a problem. That's what I'm here for.
We've got Avery with their hand up. Would you like to share? Would you like to turn your camera on, Avery, and share?
Hi.
Hello, Avery.
This is a bit, I've been like reading it over, but it's just started downpouring like right when this started. So I just thought I would do Dear English Rain because my partner has just had to leave in the middle of it, and I'm grateful that I get to stay here. But yeah, did you know that Dear English Rain, did you know that I had somewhere to go before you dropped a tsunami on the earth, flood it like one of the buckets from a water park? Did you want to ruin my perfectly done up hair or my outfit that looked better without a coat? You turn roads and sidewalks into a splash zone, ensuring I look like a wet dog, shaggy and certainly not having fun. You remind, oh, I can't even read my own writing. You remind the world to take it easy and rest, but are the enemy to those with plans. Maybe if I drain the ocean, ponds, and rivers, that would finally stop you. To hell with the plans. I have plans to get to.
Nice. Thanks, Amy, for sharing that. Brilliant idea. I love it. Straight, and it's just straight there, and the ideas are all around us on it. Like I said earlier, it's just observing the world with a sense of curiosity as well. And I think that's what really helps for poetry. So thank you for sharing that one, Avery.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
That's great. I think we've got I don't think we've got anybody else with their hand up. I can't see anybody else with their hand up. So it's a very brave thing to do, to share, isn't it, Alex?
Sure, definitely.
Obviously, Alex has been writing poetry for a long time and feels quite confident in performing and things. So it's but it's big to ask you to do that. So well done for those of you that have. Oh, we've got another hand up, Robin. Did you want to unmute yourself, Robin?
Yeah, I've unmuted myself. Yeah, this is very, very short. Just the first bit about peace, and I was inspired by the rain conversation. So it just goes, I'm sitting at my desk, staring at the rain. The cat is on my knee. He's calm for once. Last week, he spent all day sitting in his litter tray. It sounds symbolic. I hope he's okay.
I love that one, Rob. Thanks for sharing it. It doesn't matter like how short the poem are. Like I said, is that you know, the poem has its own identity anyway, and it'll know how long it needs to be. But you can always kind of tickle away a bit more if you fancy that. If you fancy the poem had some more to say. But thanks for sharing it, Robin. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Was there anybody else there, Camilla? Because I can't see any of the hands up.
We've got Jennifer and Susan.
Lovely.
Jennifer, do you want to go first, please?
Hello. Dear blank page, you taunt me so cruelly, dangling worlds of possibilities, but freeze me with your stare when I attempt to write one word.
Yeah, that's about right, isn't it? That's about right. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's great. That's true.
Susan.
I also feel like that. Susan. All right, Susan.
Susan, oh no, you should be unmuted. We can hear you, I think. Hello?
Susan, I think you might be on mute. I'm sounding like a robot now. I can hear a robot coming back.
Yeah, I think there's two, for whatever reason, there's two of Susan in the chat. So I wonder whether there's a bit of a clash.
I think maybe, Susan, you've joined on two devices, have you? And that's why we're getting an echo.
Yeah, all right, I'm going to mute them, but then we've got some other hands. We've got Nicola. Do you want to have a go?
Yeah, I'll have a go. Well, I'm echoing now as well, am I?
No, that should be okay now.
Okay, so I'll just turn my camera on as well. Okay, here I am. So mine is about my daughter Poppy. Dear Poppy, why are you such a pickle? You like everything and then nothing at all. And why are you only 2 feet tall? You ruined my life by being so demanding. Like just the other day, with your snot-filled nostrils and your squishy pink fists, you screamed and screamed, and then you screamed some more. And all you wanted was to open the door you closed only a moment ago. And when you screamed at me, I'll be back in a mo.
Thanks for sharing. That's a good thing about it. I think that it's just nice to have a bit of fun. We can have a little rant through these kind of poetry ideas, so you can imagine how, like, younger people love to hear these poems and like to write them themselves as well. Because but it's not exclusively to them. That's why I say I write for the curious nature and the playful and nature in all of us. Because that's what this poetry is all about. It's a whole audience. You know, and I think it helps to think of it like that instead of thinking, okay, I'm writing this poem for a 7 to 11-year-old. It's a terrible way to be. I don't think that's a good thing to do at all. So keep going with this kind of playful and musical sense of joy and wonder when you write.
We've got Rachel, and then Susan's got her hand up again, which I think means she wants to try again. So let's go for Rachel, and then we'll give Susan another go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the noise poem. Oh.
You sound like a chipmunk.
Yeah. What's going on? Shall I leave it?
Oh, it's okay.
Try again. I think we're good.
Okay. So, oh, sorry, the dog started barking. Dear Starling, you are welcome, of course, to share this house, to raise your babes in the warmth of these eaves, but must you wake me with your rat impressions in the night, rustling in the walls, scratching, squeaking? No murmurations now. I cannot believe you're not whiskered. Were-rat.
That's a brilliant one. I love that, and that's quite well. I love the Starling, but yeah, not so much when they're kind of scratching about like that. I suppose is different, isn't it? Thank you for
especially good with the dog bark at the end there.
Yeah.
So it's like a full stop.
That's it. Yeah, that's about right.
The chipmunk thing is weird. Can everybody else hear that?
Yeah.
Susan, do you want to try?
Yeah.
We can't hear you. It's really, the sound is really scrambled. I think what we'll do, Susan, I might try and we'll try separately.
I feel like I really need to hear Susan's.
Yeah.
Like, you know, one minute it sounded like.
Can you type it in the chat, maybe, Susan, and then one of us could read it out for you. But if let Alex carry on for now, and then perhaps we'll come back to it if you pop it in the chat.
That's a good idea.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm not sure. Hello. Oh, it's contagious. You just gotta love it, haven't you? This technology is great. I mean, I'll read. I'm happy to read another one or two poems and then open it up for some. I think then open it up for some questions and answers. Let me just think what kind of poems would be nice to finish here. I've got.
Alex, just quickly, we've got Shana who's got her hand up as well.
Oh,
do you want to? And
yeah.
then we'll.
And yeah, please.
Shana, do you want to have a go?
Okay, hi. Do I sound like a chipmunk?
No, you sound just fine.
Okay, so mine was and this is like, I'm dyslexic, so it's really something for me to write something so quickly, or to at least attempt.
That's amazing.
So I wrote, "Dear son, from your alarm clock mum, did you know it's not so fun to visit your room from 6 till noon to get you onto your feet? You know, what would be the sweetest sweet, what would be so truly neat, is if you could try to defeat this teenage bed-like glue." That's it.
That was awesome. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for sharing. I was just thinking then when you're reading it, this is about displacement and putting our feelings or something, onto an inanimate object or onto somebody else. And that's like a night, and because obviously we're writing this letter to this person, but we're really just, I think we can have a lot of fun with this kind of session. So I'm glad that inspired you to write something, Sharon, especially if you wouldn't usually. And I hope that continues to just take away some of the barriers that you might have felt beforehand when it comes to writing, especially poetry. So that's excellent. Thank you for sharing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
No problem. So, I mean, it's time. I mean, I'm happy if we wanted some questions and answers now, Camilla. Is it about that time, or is it?
Well, it would be nice if you read us a couple more poems, and then people can either pop them in the chat, or we can risk chipmunking again, and people can unmute themselves, and we can have live questions, which is even nicer, really. So because we all love your poetry, Alex. So it would be lovely, I think, everyone would agree to hear maybe a poem or two more.
Yeah, maybe I'll sing the Jelly Bean Blues. I think it'll go across right. What I'd usually do is get everyone to clap along with it, but I'll have to just try and keep the rhythm myself. So we had the dirty, horrible, hairy, stinky jelly bean. Somebody ate that. Actually, I'll read Guilty. This is a poem. What happened second? It's kind of like three parts to this poem now. So you have. Somebody got caught for eating this dirty, horrible, hairy, sticky jelly bean, and the poem is called Guilty. I don't know what I'm looking for. I know the poem. I was going to just show you. So after this, guilty, hands in the air, turn around slowly, open your mouth. You look guilty to me. Apparently, you ate a dirty jelly bean off the floor, and it was covered in hairs. That's against the law. Stay right where you are, and I wouldn't get smug. They all start this way, the full-time thugs. You're coming with me. You can't be trusted. The whole village knows, and we are all disgusted. So that is Guilty. Then if you listen out for the lyrics, this is a bit of I wrote this song over the 12-bar blues. I have actually got a piano by there, but it's very out of tune, so I won't bother going to it. I'll just sing this as it comes along. I'll try and keep the rhythm along. So it's called the Jelly Bean Blues, and it's all about someone going to jail for eating this dirty, horrible, hairy, stinky jelly bean. Third part, and it goes like this. This here's a story you might not believe. They said that I was strange, something's wrong with me, and they put me in jail, threw away the key. said that it's a crime to eat a dirty jelly bean, and it's making me cry, ruin my life. Nowhere to run, and there's nowhere to hide. I've got the jelly bean blues. Yeah, I've got the jelly bean blues. That's right, I've got the jelly bean blues. And I don't know what to do. Hey, 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 feel so lonely, so much to lose. Careful what you eat, cause this could happen to you. And it was covered in hairs, they said to my face. On top of the stairs, boy, you're such a disgrace. And I just didn't know what I did was so wrong. Well, now you're in jail, boy, and your sentence is long, and it's making me cry, ruin my life. Nowhere to run, and there's nowhere to hide. I've got the jelly bean blues. I've got the jelly bean blues. That's right, I've got the jelly bean blues. And I don't know what to do. Hey, 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 feel so lonely, so much to lose. Careful what you eat, cause this could happen to you. Oh, be careful what you eat, cause this could happen to you. Hey, be careful what you eat, cause this could happen to you. That was the Jelly Bean Blues.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Well, like I wanted to join in with that. I'll be careful what I eat. I did one about a jelly baby as well.
And that's it. So this one is called The Cherry, the Moon and the Mouse. I was looking at a little picture. I'd gone and done some performance somewhere. And as you probably were, as I said, I visit hundreds of schools. Even in the last 3 weeks, I think, the last 2 weeks, I think I've been to about 17 different schools, maybe the last 3 weeks. And also Buckingham Palace as well, because I was invited there for the final of the BBC 500 Words story session. So that was really cool. But the truth of the matter is I'm just traveling all around the place all the time. And it can get a bit, like, I love to perform. But about a week and a half ago, I lost my voice. I was in London, lots of schools there, Buckingham Palace. Then I went down to Kent. Then I went up to Warwickshire, Evesham, and went to a lot of schools up there. And then I lost my voice, which was obviously terrible because this is like my bread and butter. And it is an extension of the writing, because I'm very critical about writing. They often say, are you stage or are you page? Well, I hope that I can be considered both, because I'm very careful about the intricacies of the language on the page. But also, when I write them, I think about the musicality of it, hence why lots of the poetry is rhythmic, and I got the songs and things. So I know, I'm very aware of how it's going to sound. In fact, I build it with the sound. That's why it's so handy to edit, to read your work aloud, to help edit. But yes, I lost my voice, and then I think I had a bit of a burnout. And that's the second time that's happened to me, actually, when you're just doing so much. And yeah, I had to recover then. I took a few days off, and then I was back to it. Like, I think that was I had Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off. And then I did a performance for Hay Festival Wednesday night. I was very kind of compromised around my throat. School again. And then, what's the day today? Saturdays. Yes, school's all this week, actually. So it's always very busy, but what a joy, what a life to live. My work is my passion now. And so that's just a pleasure always. So I'm not grumbling about it, but I'm just saying, if you are like that and you're out doing a lot of performance or something you'd like to think about doing, then you do need to be like, you need to look after yourself as well. So this one, oh yeah, so actually this is why I started that little ramble. I had this postcard, and it was of a cherry, and it was kind of like floating in space. So I wrote this poem based on that. It's called The Cherry, the Moon and the Mouse. Here we go. The mouse went looking for something to do. The stars were bright on the black and the blue. The mouse found a cherry, his favorite snack. The moon was bright on the blue and the black. The biggest of cherries he ever did see, glowing in moonlight, the red and the green. It was hard to believe, felt more like a dream. The black and the blue, the red and the green, the blue and the black, and his favorite snack. The mouse ate the cherry and never looked back. And I'm going to read a poem called A Giant Egg, which is a bit of a cheeky one, really. Sometimes I read this and I think, oh, and the teacher's going to like that. Let me see. A Giant Egg. And this is an ekphrastic poem. So my auntie actually illustrated this book. And ekphrastic poem, for those who don't know, is when you write a poem based on a piece of art, a sculpture, or something visual, you know. So I said, this book is all about collaboration. There are song lyrics in it, there are haiku poems, there are limericks, there are all these poems, and I give a little bit of an introduction into each section. So it's very handy in schools and just for people at home, I suppose. So all of the poems run like I write the poem, my auntie or whichever illustrator, they do the drawing. I said to my auntie, actually, I want to put 2 ekphrastic poems in here to encourage people to write something based on an image. So she did that. She just came out with this giant egg, and then I came out with this poem. I call it a giant egg. 'Twas a normal day, or so it seemed, sunbeam sparkling on the sea. The dog was happy as could be. We were walking on the beach. Then what the shell? A giant egg. 'Twas too much for my seaside head. What the chicken? What the duck? Maybe it's good luck. That's what we hoped, but it wasn't true. The egg went wibbly wobbly woo, and soon the egg split into 2, and we saw a face. It was big and blue with yellow eyes. 'Twas not a chicken in disguise. 'Twas not a duck or not a goose, but an alien on the loose. A giant head and tiny legs. Out of the egg it came and said, "Greetings, Earthlings, my name's Steve. I'm here to see the chimpanzees. They sent a message to outer space, complaining about the human race, saying ooh-ee-ah-ah, ooh-ee-ooh. So I've come to see if it's true." So lots of playful poems there, and like I said, that's what it's really all about for me. I have fun with the language, and I know that that's so important, especially in such a world of kind of, you know, misery and things. When you turn on the news, it's kind of heartbreaking, and that affects us, and I know that it affects the children in a huge way. So my job is to balance all of that out, balance the dark with a sense of light, because we are bright light beings, and I think that when we write and express ourselves artistically, that we are given a little bit back to the world. We're kind of balancing the books like a kind of creative accountants, and that's how I think it is. So I want to know what happens with the alien. I just saw that pop up. Who knows what happens with the alien? I think that's the pleasure of writing, isn't it? Maybe I should finish with something a little bit slower. Let's see. Okay, this will be nice. Let me find this one, and I'll finish with this, and then we'll have some questions and answers. And I wrote this. This is an idea that you can have, really writing about your own place of, again, this is a bit like peace, your own kind of your own poetry place, poetry garden, poetry hill. Maybe it's your poetry home, who knows. This was mine. Poetry Hill. All is still on Poetry Hill. The horses dip their heads. The geese are safe within their sheds, and ducks are tucked in beds. All is still on Poetry Hill. The flowers closing in. No sound of cars or engines, just the sound of quiet things, like moonlight on the meadow, and shadows shaped as trees, and silent cats all inky black that tiptoe through your sleep. All is still on Poetry Hill. The poet doesn't speak. He piles his thoughts into a heap and drifts into his dreams. There we go. There we go. So I hope that you've enjoyed, like I said earlier, the diversity of the poems, the fact that they really do just reflect the human condition. So they're a bit of everything. And I don't have a favorite poem, because it's like music. It's hard to have a favorite song. You might, you know, it really depends. If you want to go and exercise, you might want to listen to dance. If you're relaxing, you might want to listen to, I don't know, whatever it is you like, country, folk, blues, jazz. The music reflects the emotion that you're in at the time, or it can change it. And poetry is exactly the same. So it's hard to have a favorite. They're all family, and you just go to the poems that you need depending on how you feel.
Oh, that's lovely, Alex. And what a nice one to finish on. Really, really nice. We could all listen to you reading poems and singing your songs all day. It was amazing. And some really good exercises as well, some incredible exercises to go away. And just giving that whole feel of like, this is all just playing with words and having fun with language and having fun with your feelings and how you react to the world. And it's just enjoy it and don't feel so frightened of it. We've had some questions that have come through the chat, so if we could go through as many of those as we've got time for, that'd be really good. So the first one's come through from Alex. Where do you advise starting in order to learn how to write poetry? They've put "learn" in like inverted commas. And explore writing for children and the curious, playful in nature, for example, in order to be classed as a poetry writer.
Yes, good question. I mean, for me, I just started writing, and it came straight out of my journal, and then it just led into, you know, figuring that out myself. You know, there's a lot of that, like learning, like you said, like you are learning your way into language. And again, you know, that's when you start learning about yourself. But you can never really get any better kind of teacher than the work that's already out there. So I would say go and get a few books from a library, or order some if you can afford it, and just read those books as well, because my whole writing career has been self-directed. I actually worked as a builder for most of my adult life. Then I went and studied building surveying, so I worked as a senior building surveyor and architectural drafter. So my work was in construction, and people often, it's surprising to people, but also then the more you look at it, you think, but why is it surprising when you really think about it? You don't need to go and do a writing degree to write. The same musicians just pick up instruments and get on with it. And I think that I mean, if you've done a writing degree and you've done a master's in writing and even a PhD, fantastic. I mean, that's because obviously you've loved that and you've been really educating your way into it. But you can't allow your potential lack of knowledge, to stop you writing in the first place. As I said, people just pick up instruments, they jam, they start noodling, as they say. Next thing you know, they're writing songs. And I think poetry should be a bit more like that. Like, why wouldn't it be? Because it's an expression of ourselves. Of course, you can learn then about the structures and the meter and how you can kind of think about the all the things like that you are talking a bit more kind of technical about poetry. But you kind of learn that as well, because these are just measures. These are measures of syllables and times. And you learn that through reading. Again, I never went and studied anything when it comes to writing. And me personally, I'm glad I didn't, because I read my way. I found the more you read, the better you get at finding what's missing. And you know what's missing? It's just you. Because that's so important, because it's everything about you is unique. Your voice, your sound, your memories, your present, your future, your dreams, everything that's made you, that's what's missing. So it's already there, it's already within you. But the learning really just helps, because obviously you're building your vocabulary, and you're building the whole idea and the essence of what it means to be a writer. But you read a lot to find your slim contribution to this world of literature. You'll find yourself in that.
Yeah, so lots of people learn from doing, don't they?
Yes.
It's just like you've got different ways, and I think it sounds like poetry is very audio. It's a rhythm. It needs to be said, doesn't it, out loud? It needs to be read and experienced, and then hopefully that inspire people to write their own. Yeah. Okay, we've got another question from Helen Hill here. She says, I have accidentally fallen into writing in a rhyming poetic style. I've had feedback from an editor about expanding my skills and devices used now. Any tips on great places to start and breaking out of purely rhyme?
Yeah, again, I think it would just be finding the writing that's already out there. To read as much as you can, and when you see how other people do it, and I mean, there are lots of poems in my books. I'm not saying, hey, that's a little plug. Go and get my no, hey, get them from the library, get them from whatever, and you'll see then maybe how I've decided to do it. But it really is just about who you are. But because like I said earlier, there is still a sense of musicality, and then you're thinking about the cadence, you're thinking about the intonation, the rise and fall of the language. All of that's in free verse. So it's just using those tools that what makes writing interesting, and it adds flavour to it. It's your toolbox, isn't it? The figurative language and all of those other things. Like I said, the cadence, the intonation. So you still get that from speaking it aloud, is what I'm saying. So it still has an identity, a sound identity. I mean, trying to think of if you couldn't do that, I suppose that's even trickier, isn't it? But I suppose it's about the flow of the language on the page then, and the shapes you create and the slimness of it, maybe it's really because I feel when I'm reading my poems, I'm extending their feeling. So I embody that, whether it's playful, you'll see that in my face, you'll see it in my body language. And if it's more thoughtful and philosophical, then you'll also see all that in my body language. And so I think that you can still put that on the page, rhyme or no rhyme. Put that feeling into it. Think of the poem as a living thing. That'll help in the first place.
Okay, lovely. All right, so a question here from Zoe saying, hi Alex, what do you think are the pros and cons of using rhyming in children's picture books?
I think perhaps maybe I just touched on that a little bit there, because I think that it is I really just don't think there could be any cons. It really just depends on, if you're writing a collection, you think about the heavy and light nature of each poem. So you think that's what I think when I'm putting together a collection of poems. So if there's 40, 50 poems in here, I like it to run like so: sensitive, humorous, philosophical, humor, you know, like that. So it's heavy, light, heavy, light. It's never really heavy, but you know, that's one way of looking at it. So you know, you think of every time you write a poem, think about it like feeding into a collection, you know, your whole your body of work, and so again, it's a living thing. It's not just one thing and one thing. It's all of the nature of who you are in your writing. So, of course, rhyming poems were, you know, nobody could deny that children, they just love it, and young people, and I think most people like it, because I've been discouraged to write in rhyme for some picture books that I've written, and you know, but then you look at the Gruffalo and you think, well, that's the most successful kind of rhyming picture book that there's been, and it's just a rhyming poem. So I think that it's, again, a lot of this comes down to knowing yourself. If you overdo it, if the whole book just read very much the same with the same rhythms and the same meter, that would be a bit much. So again, think about it like heavy, light. Think of splitting it up like an album. The poetry collection should run like an album, really. You know, you should have different feelings going on.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when you were describing that, like putting an album together.
Yeah,
it all packages up together with the art as well.
Yeah.
Guess what? Susan's got her poem up. Shall I read it out?
Yeah.
Okay, so dear Mr. Heron, where are you today? I love to see you wading up to your knees at the river's edge. It makes me laugh when you strut along the shoreline, bobbing your head like an Egyptian dancer, beak jutting out and back, black eyes focused on the ripples, looking for fish. Down you dart, I laugh till I fart. Head underwater, 1 second only. Up it rises, a fat fish snapped in your bill. Head tips back, swallowed in one gulp.
That was amazing. That was amazing. Oh, well, I'm so glad we got to hear that as well, Susan. Thank you very much for sharing. I actually saw a heron yesterday as well, but that's fantastic. I love that. And some humor in there as well. So brilliant. We finally got to hear it.
We got it. Okay, we've got a question from Shana. How did Alex overcome that age-old problem of publishers saying poetry and rhyme is bad for the international market? Oh, that old chestnut. That always comes up in picture book writing. And how's he experienced that? Or maybe it isn't a thing if you are writing poetry.
Yes, I think that's what I found so far with the picture books, because they spoke about international rights and translation rights, isn't it? So I'm just actually working with a publisher now on about 3 or 4 different picture books, and I was working. So it is a tricky one. I don't know what's going to happen with that with my work, but I you know, I would be very much more keen to keep them as they are, because that's the energy that they need. And I'm also happy to kind of try and find ways of writing picture books that are non-rhyme. It's just who you are, isn't it? And me personally, I like the drive of rhyme, and it doesn't always have to be very, very predictable. You know, use other techniques that so the rhyme is not, because there's so many different ways that we can write. You know, you can rhyme the top line with the bottom line if you're working in stanzas, or A B, you know, whatever. Just choose something that okay, just seems a little bit different. Maybe throw some repetition in there. So I do like rhyme. I don't, you know, exclusively write in that, but that's what I found so far. It's mainly been in my attempt at picture books, which are kind of going through at the moment. So I think some of them they're quite happy to go for. But when it comes to a poetry collection, like I said, because I have that nature, that kind of up and down, heavy light nature, I think there's a bit of everything in these, and it's not just exclusively rhyme. And I wouldn't want to do that. I like to showcase a different sense and a different feel of language. But again, and I've said this a few times, there is still an element of rhythm in it and a musicality in it, even without the rhyme. So once you find that in your writing, then I think it will just drive it anyway.
Yeah, is accent a thing? You know, because because it varies, doesn't it? Obviously, rhyming, Yeah,
definitely. You can squash kind of different. Yeah, that's true. You can, and it's about getting cheeky with the writing, isn't it? And exploring the fun and creative aspect of writing, because it's a squishy thing. You know, words and then words on the page, how they look, and then how they sound, and how all the feelings that go along with them. It's amazing. Language is just extraordinary. And as a poet, we're thinking outside the box, and we're trying to say things in a different way, or in a more creative spin. And that's why I always say that the poem's alive. If it doesn't feel alive to me, I know it's not, if it's flat. So it's the energy that you put into it. It's the energy that you get out. It's like cooking, really. You know what I mean? That's why you don't.
Okay. Let's have another question. So we've got a question here. Can you explain more what you mean by the poetry puzzle? And is there a helpful book to read to get started on the work of editing a poem? That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know if there is. Perhaps I could write something in the back of my neck, because I like to put some tip in the back of Donuts, Thieves and Chimpanzees. I've got lots of tips on performance and things, but that's a good idea, or tips on the nature of editing. So poetry puzzle, the way I would describe that is the fact that it's a messy thing. And I always write with a pen in my notebooks. I've got tons of notebooks. I much prefer to write in that way. I just think that it is more artistic. It's just tangible, you know, it's tactile. I like that. And I just think it helps, crossing out and being a bit messy with it, putting some squiggles on the page, writing in different angles on the page, everything about the way, you know, sometimes I'll pick up my book plain. I tend to write on plain paper because I think the lines are a bit restricting for poetry. And sometimes I just go straight in the top corner and start writing on an angle. Then I get so far, but then I'll add some more over here. It's a bit of art, isn't it? It's art with words, so it is a puzzle, but it's a fun puzzle to be involved in. Who wants to do something that's easy anyway? Anything that's easy, nothing good comes easy. So we're challenging the writing, we're challenging ourselves. That's why I say the improving the language improves us as human beings, because we're saying we're not satisfied with how we're communicating. We're saying that we can do better. So it's a puzzle in the best sense, because it is encouraging you to improve yourself and develop the nature of the way that you're communicating artistically. That's what kind of puzzle it is. Crossing, and never just completely rub everything out or block everything out. It's so important to just put one line through, so you can see where you've come from when you go back, because it might be that the first things that you wrote were actually better than what you ended up with a day later. And let it breathe as well. Let the puzzle, the poem breathe. Leave it. Never work too hard. So what I'm saying is, okay, it shouldn't be easy. Yeah, of course, but it shouldn't be so much. I don't think it should be a challenge in the sense that I've got to get through this, I've got to finish this poem. I just let poems breathe, and then I go back to them. And in that time, I've lived, and my ideas around the poem has changed. And another thing, it's like have a couple of creative things going on. Like that helps me. I mean, okay, fair enough. I play a bit piano, I play guitar, I write poetry for adults, write for children, writing music. So if the poetry for younger audience isn't going too well, I tend to just move into a different project that I've been writing. So it never stays still. The creativity moves, but creativity is everything. So, you know, if you think, oh, but I don't play the piano, I don't play the guitar, well, that's fine, because you could just go out in the garden then and pot some plants, or, you know, go and do something, you know, even putting the hoover around, polish it. All of those things are creative. You can be creative in those things. So important to just leave something alone. You have to know when to leave something alone and go back to it with a different, when you kind of breathe in some lovely oxygen, you've been for a nice walk and you just feel a little bit different. I think that's very important to the creative practice.
Very good, very good. Okay, I think that's excellent advice. We've got a few more questions. We're running out of time though, so we'll probably just have one more. I found your poetry prompt questions really lovely. Do you have any suggestions of some playful daily prompts? So something maybe that would give us a little sort of inspired, something we could take away that we could do sort of quite quickly, would be really helpful. Got any tips for us?
Yeah, I mean, so what do we do with the letter? So we wrote letters. So I think another good thing that is quite similar that I like to do because I find it fun is to write from the perspective of an inanimate object. This is just an idea that you can have a play around with straight away. So I wrote a poem called what was it called? Oh, anyway, it was like, so it could be anything. Just look around your room and think of an object that you use, maybe even overuse, and write a bit of a narky poem to you. So you're writing it back to yourself, you know what I mean? Dear human, or dear Camilla, dear Alex, you know? And I think that's a fun thing to do because you can do it anytime. You can look and think, oh, look at that hairbrush. Or where's that remote? It's under the settee again, you know, covered in here, whatever it is. Your toothbrush, your car, anything, and just write from that perspective. Just look around, and I think that it's quite a fun way to write. Displace yourself, and so maybe that's a start in a playful manner.
Oh, well, I think that's a really good tip to take away, and we can all definitely do that. I mean, I say that sometimes to the kids, you know, they say, where do your ideas come from? I say, well, it's just from living your life. And then when I was a child myself, I do remember making characters out of inanimate objects. You know, everything had a name, it had a backstory. and everything going on.
That's right. I'll see if I can. On that note, I've got this poem, and I think it's on. You can actually find it, but I know I've sent it to this woman. Let me just see if I've got it here, because I sent it to her, and it's online. I think I did a podcast with somebody called a 64 Million Artist, and you can see me reading this poem. I wrote this just this was a creative. What was it called? It was about everyday creativity, and I was doing a one on poetry. So I'll read this now. I just found it actually in WhatsApp. So this is called Dear Human, for an example. Dear Human, it's sticky to say this, I mean tricky, but the crisps and the sweeties have got me all greasy. I mean, seriously, buddy, what the heck? Why can't you show me some respect? I'm the channel changer, the clicker, the clacker, the gadget, the gizmo, the doofer, the zapper, but you don't see any of that. I'm overlooked, it's a fact. By the time that you read this, I'll be on the run. Living with you is a pain in the bum. I deserve so much better. I deserve to be free. Good luck finding something to watch without me. Yours sincerely, the runaway remote. P.S. From someone who's been lost beneath the settee. It could do with a Hoover at least once a week. So it's something that you use or something. It could be anything around you. There's going to be so many things. And write a poem to you. I think that's a good start.
Yeah, no, I think that's a brilliant one to do. We call it the doofer.
Well, there we are.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Alex. It's an amazing session. I think we've all taken away so much from that, and it's just so fun and playful. We're all smiling, and there has been loads of really positive reactions, and I think everybody's written something from that session, and it's just been great. Really, really wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us and for persevering with the whole camera issues and things like that. We got there in the end. We even got Susan's poem in there, so that's brilliant. Okay, just for the rest of you festival goers, what's going to happen now? We're having a lunch break, and then the next video will be on, which is the non-fiction one, where James interviews two of the Bloomsbury employees, and so that's worth definitely watching. Please watch that with your subtitles on, because we have got some sound issues on that video, so I do recommend you put the subtitles on so you can catch as much as you can from it. And then we're having a break, and then the next live session is with the amazing Holly Bourne at 2 o'clock, which I will try not to fangirl her too much, because it's going to be stars in my eyes. So yeah, so thanks again to Alex. Thanks you all for joining us. Remember, this is recorded. It will be on Slack and available until sort of, I think it's the 19th of April. So you've got plenty of time to watch back if you've missed anything. And do check out Alex's books. They are fantastic. And his poetry is amazing. So thank you. Big round of applause for Alex. And thank you so much, everybody.
Ashes coming up. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure to be here. So thank you, Camilla, and thank you, James, for inviting me. Take good care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Bye, everyone.